Good day and welcome back to Herbert Dennard Show. We have with us Tyrone Brooks, state representative from the Atlanta area, and he's also the president of GABIO, Georgia Association of Black Elected Officials. And I'm proud and honored to have him here in our presence in our city of Macon. Welcome, Tyrone.
Good to be back, Herbert.
Tell me, Tyrone, you was recently involved in some things going on in Atlanta in a county where there was a killing going on, a hanging going on of a black man. Tell us about that.
Well, Herbert, you know, on July 25th, 1946, at the Moores Ford Bridge, which is a bridge that straddles the Walton and Oconee County lines. On this evening, around 6 p.m., 4 African Americans, 2 couples, the Malcolms and the Dorseys, were captured by a mob of Klansmen. One of the women was 7 months pregnant, and they were murdered. They were lynched. The bodies were shot up, riddled with bullets, and a funeral home director by the name of Dan Young, the only black man who had a funeral home in Walton County at that time, was called to pick the bodies up. And in 1968, Hosea Williams assigned me to that county. I was 21 years old and rookie in SCLC, and Willie Bolden was the project director, and the first person I met was Dan Young. He took me to his funeral home, took me downstairs in the basement, opened up an old file cabinet, pulled out a folder, and spread these photographs of the dead bodies on the table. And I said, why are you showing me pictures of dead people? He said, I want you to know where you are. He said, you need some wake up. You need some shock treatment. He said, you just can't casually drive in from Atlanta. We've asked Hosea Williams to send folks in here to help us, but you just can't drive over here like this. I said, why not? He said, you're in the capital of the Ku Klux Klan, and these are victims of Klan violence, and I want you to see these photographs because I don't want you to ever drive over here alone. He said, when you leave in Atlanta, you call us. We'll meet you halfway. And furthermore, you need to have somebody with you when you come into Walton County. Well, that was 1968. Dr. King had spoken here at Zion Hill Baptist Church. And Dr. King spoke on March 23rd, 1968. Dr. King had planned to come to Walton County. He wanted to focus on our immediate project, which was based in Social Circle, but he also wanted to focus on the deaths of these 4 African Americans and the unborn baby. He went to Memphis, Tennessee, and less than 2 weeks he was assassinated. So he couldn't come to Walton County to focus on the deaths. But for all these years, it has nagged at me and it's nagged at SCLC, and finally, this past January, on January the 12th, when I delivered a salute to Dr. King on his birthday in the chamber of the House, I talked about the successes in Mississippi and Alabama of solving old civil rights cases. And I praised the Attorney General and the District Attorney in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And I said, you know, if Georgia really wants to honor Dr. King, we don't need any more ceremonies. We don't need any more programs. What we need is, we need to prosecute those persons who are walking around in Walton County and living across America who are responsible for the last open public lynching in this country, which occurred at that bridge in 1946. From my speech, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution placed it on their website. It went around the world, began to get calls from all around the country. And we decided to use the 37th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination to go back into Walton County to revive the movement, to force the prosecutors in this state to prosecute those persons who are still living, who are still walking around in Walton County, whose names are on street signs and road signs, the killers. The killers' names are on signs all over Walton County, believe it or not. Some of the persons who were involved in the killings have been judges, have been sheriffs, have been chiefs of police, bankers, president of Chamber of Commerce, industrial leaders. And when you drive through Walton County, you see this, and it's quite offensive. So that's really where we are right now. We're trying to force Georgia and maybe the federal government to come back and focus on this of mass lynching.
Why, if you know, I don't know if your research brought it to you, why was the person killed?
Well, what had
I know they was black, that's the main
They were
reason.
absolutely African Americans. In 1946, it was a whole different world. I was barely born. But in 1946, black people had no rights in this state.
Right.
Black people could not even vote. There was an all-white segregated Democratic primary that blacks couldn't participate in. My father was denied a registration ballot in Hancock County because he was a black man who owned plenty of land but was told, you can't vote in this county. You can vote Republican, but you can't vote Democrat. Well, it was a whole different world, and people today need to read their history, because here's what happened. These 2 black people who were first arrested and placed into jail were joined by 2 others who tried to come and defend them. What had happened was, one of the black men had been in the armed services, came back home in his uniform, and discovered that a white plantation owner had been coming to his property and really trying to involve himself with his wife. So he went and confronted this white man. They had a fight, and he beat the white man. White man called the police, and he was arrested. Then the other three were arrested. So they were all in the jail together. Finally, the plantation owner next door decided he needed his folks back on the plantation. So he sent a white man whose name was Lloyd Harrison down to the jail to bond them out. The white man picked them up from the jailhouse. Instead of taking them to the farm, he drove the long way around and delivered them to a mob of Klansmen waiting at the bridge. The incident between the black man and the white man really had inflamed the Klan. The Klan had decided, we're going to teach this nigga a lesson. And so they killed 4 people and an unborn baby simply because there had been an altercation between a black man who had gone off to the war and come back home fighting for this country and this white farmer. That really led, and we've been back to the house where the incident started. We've taken photographs of the old house. I'm standing in one of the photographs with one of the local leaders there. And when you look at this now, here's what happened. In 1999, I'm sitting with my friend Roy Barnes, the governor of Georgia, and we're talking one evening. I had just returned from Walton County, and Roy said, what's on your mind? He said, something on your mind today. I said, yeah. I said, I just returned from Walton County. He said, I bet you've been over there at that North Ford Bridge. And I said, Roy, that's a case that's been nagging at me for all these years. He said, Tyrone, when I was at the University of Georgia in law school, we used to write about this case. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, I want the case reopened. So immediately he sent an email to the director of the GBI and ordered the case reopened. A year later, the GBI gave us a briefing in the governor's office in the Capitol. And basically, the GBI director looked me in the eye and he said, listen, he said, we've been around this country, we've interviewed suspects, we've looked at the FBI report from 1946. He said, I want you to know something. That incident never could have occurred and never could have been covered up all these years had there not been participation by law enforcement agencies. And so the cover-up has extended from 1946 to 2005. We're on the case now. Hopefully, we can find a way to bring this to justice and closure.